The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg is a book that delves into the concept of habits and how they shape our lives. In the preface, the author lays the groundwork for the book by explaining how he became interested in the subject of habits and their impact on individuals and society. He shares his experience of visiting a neuroscience laboratory and observing how a rat developed a habit loop in response to a cue, a routine, and a reward. Duhigg also explains that habits are crucial to our daily lives because they allow us to automate routine tasks, freeing up our mental energy to focus on more complex activities. He argues that understanding how habits work can help individuals change them to achieve personal and professional goals. The author also emphasizes the role of habits in organizations and society as a whole. He explains how habits influence the behavior of employees, consumers, and voters, and how companies and governments use this knowledge to shape their strategies. Overall, the preface sets the tone for the book and introduces readers to the importance of habits in our lives. It highlights how habits can be both positive and negative, and how understanding their nature can lead to positive changes in our personal and professional lives. The author's use of examples from scientific research and real-life scenarios helps to make the book's subject matter accessible and relatable to readers. Part 1. The Habits of Individuals. Chapter 1, The Habit Loop, How Habits Work. Chapter 1 explores the science behind how habits work. Duhigg argues that every habit is made up of a loop that consists of three parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward. He explains how these components interact to create and reinforce habits, and how understanding this loop is key to changing unwanted habits. The chapter provides a range of examples to illustrate how habits work, including the story of how a woman named Lisa Allen was able to quit smoking by identifying the cue, drinking coffee, the routine, smoking a cigarette, and the reward, a break from work, of her smoking habit. Once she identified these components, she was able to replace the routine of smoking with a healthier behavior, taking a walk around the block, while still receiving the reward of a break from work. Duhigg also discusses the role of cravings in the habit loop, which are triggered by the anticipation of the reward. He explains that changing habits requires identifying and altering the cues and rewards that drive them, while keeping the same routine. He provides examples of companies such as Procter & Gamble and Starbucks that have used this knowledge to create new habits in their customers and employees. Overall, Chapter 1 lays the foundation for the book and introduces readers to the basic mechanics of habits. By understanding the habit loop and how it works, readers can begin to identify their own habits and develop strategies to change them. Chapter 2, The Craving Brain, How to Create New Habits. Chapter 2 delves into the role of the brain in habit formation and how individuals can create new habits. Duhigg argues that the brain is responsible for developing habits by creating neural pathways that make certain behaviors automatic. He explains how individuals can create new habits by understanding how these pathways work and altering them to form new habits. The chapter discusses the role of cravings in habit formation, which are created by the brain's anticipation of a reward. Duhigg explains that understanding the reward system and identifying the specific reward that drives a particular habit is essential to forming new habits. He suggests that individuals can create new habits by replacing the routine of an old habit with a new one, while still receiving the same reward. The chapter provides examples of individuals who have successfully created new habits, such as Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps, who used visualization techniques to form new habits and improve his performance. Duhigg also discusses how companies such as Target and Pepsodent have used scientific research on habits to create new habits in their customers. Overall, Chapter 2 provides readers with actionable insights on how to create new habits by understanding the role of the brain in habit formation. By identifying the reward that drives a particular habit and replacing the routine with a new behavior, individuals can create new habits that align with their goals and values. The chapter emphasizes the importance of understanding the science of habits and using that knowledge to make positive changes in one's life. Before we continue, we would like to inform you that we release these summaries in audio format on Spotify before we release them on YouTube in video format, with subtitles. We have also created a goldmine of information which you can get exclusive access to by supporting us on Patreon. You get in-depth summaries plus scripts, usually twice the length of our YouTube content, a list of the top 20 key takeaways and exercises, summary requests, and more. Thank you for the support and don't forget to hit the like button. Chapter 3, The Golden Rule of Habit Change, Why Transformation Occurs. In Chapter 3, Duhigg introduces the Golden Rule of Habit Change, which is the idea that to change a habit, one must keep the same cue and reward, but change the routine. The chapter explains that this rule applies to both personal habits and organizational habits, and that it can be applied to create positive changes in various areas of life. Duhigg provides several examples to illustrate the Golden Rule in action. He discusses how Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, uses the Golden Rule to help members replace the routine of drinking with a new routine, such as attending meetings or calling a sponsor, while still receiving the same reward of stress relief or relaxation. The chapter also explores how Target used the Golden Rule to change shopping habits by analyzing customer data to identify the cues and rewards that drove certain behaviors, and then changing the routines to create new habits. The chapter also discusses the importance of belief in the process of habit change. Duhigg explains that individuals who believe in their ability to change are more likely to succeed in breaking old habits and forming new ones. He provides examples of individuals who have successfully changed their habits by using belief to motivate them through the difficult process of habit change. Overall, Chapter 3 provides readers with practical insights on how to apply the Golden Rule of Habit Change to create positive changes in their lives. By identifying the cues and rewards that drive their habits and replacing the routine with a new behavior, individuals can successfully change their habits and achieve their goals. The chapter emphasizes the importance of belief in the process and provides examples of how this belief can drive successful habit change. Part 2. The Habits of Successful Organizations. Chapter 4, Keystone Habits, or the Ballad of Paul O'Neill. Which habits matter most? In Chapter 4, Duhigg introduces the concept of keystone habits, which are small changes or habits that have a ripple effect on other areas of life. Duhigg argues that identifying and changing keystone habits can lead to significant positive changes in multiple areas of life. The chapter explores the story of Paul O'Neill, who became CEO of the Aluminum Company of America, Alcoa, in 1987. O'Neill made a seemingly small change by focusing on worker safety as the company's top priority. This keystone habit led to significant improvements in the company's productivity, employee satisfaction, and financial performance. O'Neill's focus on safety caused a chain reaction, where employees felt more valued and motivated, and became more invested in the company's success. Duhigg provides other examples of keystone habits, including regular exercise and keeping a food diary. He explains how exercise can have a ripple effect on other areas of life, such as improved sleep, reduced stress, and increased productivity. Similarly, keeping a food diary can lead to more mindful eating, which can result in weight loss and improved overall health. The chapter also discusses the importance of identifying one's own keystone habits, which can vary from person to person. Duhigg explains that identifying and changing keystone habits can lead to positive changes in other areas of life, such as work, relationships, and personal growth. Overall, Chapter 4 provides readers with a new perspective on habit change. By identifying and changing keystone habits, individuals can make small changes that have a significant impact on multiple areas of life. The chapter emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and encourages readers to identify their own keystone habits to create positive change. Chapter 5, Starbucks and the Habit of Success, When Willpower Becomes Automatic. Chapter 5 talks about the significance of willpower in forming and sustaining new habits. The chapter begins with the story of a woman named Kathy, who suffered from various addictions such as gambling, smoking, and weight gain. However, she was able to overcome her addiction through her willpower and her belief in a higher power. The chapter then goes on to describe how Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz transformed his struggling business into a massive success. By understanding that customers crave not just coffee but an experience, Schultz transformed the company's habits by retraining his employees to act as if they were performers in a play. The chapter emphasizes that willpower is not an innate quality but a skill that can be developed through practice. Once people learn to harness their willpower, they can use it to change their habits and achieve their goals. Habits are formed through a cycle of cues, routines, and rewards, and by manipulating these components, people can change their habits. Willpower plays a significant role in this process because it helps people to resist temptation and develop new, healthier habits. Overall, the chapter demonstrates the power of willpower and how it can be harnessed to create new habits. By understanding the habit loop and using willpower to change routines, people can transform their lives and achieve their goals. Chapter 6: The Power of a Crisis: How Leaders Create Habits Through Accident and Design. Chapter 6 discusses the impact of crises on the formation of habits. The author shares how a crisis can present an opportunity to create new habits and alter old ones. Organizations can use crises to develop new habits or make necessary changes. A crisis can also enable individuals to adopt new habits, particularly when the crisis is life-threatening. The chapter mentions a fire incident in London in 1987, where people were trapped in the fire and had to escape. The author explains how some of the people who survived that fire have since been able to quit smoking as a result of the crisis. In this context, the crisis acted as a trigger to break the smoking habit. Additionally, the chapter talks about how a crisis can help create new organizational habits. The author cites the case of Paul O'Neill, who took over as the CEO of Alcoa, a company that produced aluminum. O'Neill implemented a new habit of prioritizing worker safety and communication, which ultimately transformed the company into a profitable enterprise. The author shares how leaders can use crises to establish new habits by taking advantage of people's receptiveness to change during these times. In this context, a crisis presents an opportunity to influence people's behavior and create new habits. Chapter 7: How Target Knows What You Want Before You Do. When companies predict and manipulate habits. Chapter 7 details how companies can use data mining and algorithms to identify and influence our habits. He uses Target as a case study, showing how the company uses customer data to predict which customers are pregnant before they even know it. By examining customers' purchases, Target's statisticians developed a pregnancy prediction score that identified 25 products correlated with a high likelihood of pregnancy. Target sent coupons for these products to customers who scored high on the pregnancy prediction scale, hoping to win their loyalty for baby items for years to come. While Target's use of data mining is sophisticated, other companies like Google and Amazon have used similar methods to monitor and influence user behavior. The algorithms used to predict and influence our habits are often closely guarded secrets, but their impact on our lives can be significant. Duhigg notes that it's important for consumers to be aware of how companies use their data, and that while it may seem intrusive, it can also be useful in helping customers find products they want and need. However, it's also important to be mindful of how our habits are being manipulated and take steps to protect our privacy and autonomy. The chapter ends with a call to action for companies to use data mining for good, rather than just for profit, and for consumers to demand transparency and accountability from the companies they do business with. Part 3: The Habits of Societies. Chapter 8: Saddleback Church and the Montgomery Bus Boycott. How Movements Happen. Chapter 8 introduces us to the concept of how movements happen, which is demonstrated through the stories of Saddleback Church and the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Duhigg argues that habits are at the root of how large-scale social movements occur, as habits create a sense of identity and community that can be harnessed to create change. Rick Warren, the pastor of Saddleback Church, recognized that people needed to feel like they belonged to something bigger than themselves to develop strong faith-based habits. He created a program that encourages church members to form small groups that meet regularly to discuss their faith and personal struggles. These small groups create a sense of community and belonging that inspires and reinforces positive habits. Similarly, the Montgomery Bus Boycott was successful because it capitalized on existing habits of the Black community in Montgomery. The organizers recognized that most Black residents of Montgomery relied on public transportation to get around and thus created a habit of boycotting the bus system. This simple habit became a powerful force that united the Black community and helped lead to the eventual desegregation of public transportation. The chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of social habits and how they can be leveraged to create lasting change. Duhigg argues that identifying and targeting specific social habits is critical to the success of any movement, as habits have the power to shape how we think and act in profound ways. Chapter 9: The Neurology of Free Will. Are we responsible for our habits? Chapter 9 dives into the neuroscience behind free will and habit formation. The author discusses the role of the basal ganglia in creating habits and the prefrontal cortex's function in decision-making. He explores the idea that habits can, in some cases, take over the decision-making process in the brain, making it difficult for individuals to break bad habits or form new ones. Duhigg also discusses the concept of mental models and how they play a significant role in shaping our habits. Mental models are a set of beliefs or assumptions about how the world works, and they can have a powerful influence on our behavior. For example, if someone has a mental model that they are not good at math, they may avoid math-related activities and fail to develop mathematical skills. The author then introduces the concept of cue, routine, reward, which he calls the habit loop. He explains that the habit loop is a self-reinforcing cycle that is difficult to break. Once a cue triggers a habit, the routine and reward that follow reinforce the behavior, making it more likely to occur again in the future. Finally, Duhigg discusses the idea of choice architecture and how it can be used to influence behavior. Choice architecture refers to the way in which choices are presented to individuals, and it can be designed to encourage certain behaviors. For example, placing healthy food options at eye level in a cafeteria can encourage individuals to make healthier choices. Overall, this chapter explores the complex relationship between our brains, habits, and free will. It highlights the importance of understanding the neuroscience behind habit formation in order to make positive changes in our behavior. Conclusion. The Conclusion of the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg discusses the implications of the science of habit formation for individuals, organizations, and society as a whole. The author asserts that habits are a powerful force that shape our lives, and that understanding how habits work can help us to take control of our behavior and achieve our goals. Duhigg encourages readers to identify their own keystone habits, which can help to trigger a chain reaction of positive change in other areas of their lives. He also emphasizes the importance of willpower and the ability to choose our own habits, despite the influence of external cues and triggers. The author goes on to discuss the implications of the science of habit formation for organizations, arguing that the most successful companies are those that have a culture of discipline and a focus on key keystone habits. He also highlights the importance of recognizing and addressing bad habits in organizations, and provides examples of successful habit transformations at companies like Alcoa and Starbucks. Finally, Duhigg addresses the broader social implications of the science of habit formation, arguing that habits play a significant role in shaping social movements and political change. He suggests that by understanding the power of habit, individuals can become more effective agents of change in their communities and beyond. Overall, the conclusion of The Power of Habit encourages readers to take a proactive and intentional approach to their habits in order to achieve their goals and make positive change in the world.